Welcome back to the Buzzworthy Consultant Podcast, where we chat with the leading thought leaders in the consulting industry. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Eden Lovejoy, who is transforming how businesses are managed with her innovative virtual GM matrix by helping leaders move beyond working on their business and teaches them with the power of working with their business to cultivate a collaborative, impactful, and energizing workplace culture. Let's see what makes Eden so buzzworthy. Welcome to the show, Eden. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thanks, Buzz. Good to be here.
It's great to see you. It has been forever. For those who don't know, Eden and I knew each other when I had a creative agency in Anchorage, Alaska. And I think we probably met even many, many years prior to that, I would say, probably in the mid-teens or so. And we've kept track with each other, right?
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time, but we haven't seen each other in a minute.
Yes, it's been a minute as far as that goes. So now we're on the opposite coasts of the United States, and you just wrote a book about running a business, like creating a business operating system, which I love systems. I'm a big frameworks guy. I just finished my last book about A/B testing and creating frameworks and a learning culture for businesses there. And so I know the pain of going through getting all of your thoughts onto paper. But today we're going to hopefully just get a little glimpse of the magic that is Eden Joy, because I want the audience, especially for our folks who are passing through the seven-figure space, that $1 to $10 million mark. Majority of us that listen to the show are service-based businesses, but we do definitely have a lot of product folks as well. And I think regardless, your operations is going to be, though they'll be different for everyone, it is the key to success. And if anybody wants to sustain a seven-figure business or pass into the eight-figure business, this is somewhere you have to just master and have that there. And you have some frameworks that lend to those folks who are basically can't do it themselves, need to delegate, or getting burnt out, that whole 9 yards. And so where do we start? Like, when do we know that it is time to start delegating, or at least looking for somebody to start running the business for us?
Well, I think you said it. You said it just a second ago. When you get to that place of being burnt out. I work so often with business owners who have, when you start up, you expect to work a lot of hours. You expect to throw everything into the company, and eventually you get to a point where you've been hiring people, the company's growing, as you said, you move into that seven-figure space, somewhere in that growth curve, and if you're looking around and thinking, I keep hiring people and my workload's not getting any lighter. I'm working harder. I'm more exhausted than I was before. I had the idea that adding people to the team would somehow make my life easier and the business would grow. If you're in that moment, I have solutions for that space.
Right.
I was sharing with you earlier, up until now, owners have had one of two ideas. Either A, that they have to run it themselves, and when you're a startup, you really do, but you don't have to do that forever. Or B, that you have to run it yourself until you get to the point where you can hire a single executive, like a general manager, to come in and run it for you on the day-to-day operations. And I'm here to suggest my book is called Activate Your Virtual GM, and it's a step-by-step guide to get your team, your mid-level team, to collaboratively or jointly perform the functions of general manager. Right? We created a system where you can leverage the people already in place to get the support and resource you need to get the relief for the owner without hiring an executive to run the show.
And you said virtual. So are you talking about like a fractional leader?
No, the virtual GM is basically what I've done is so I'm the general manager by craft of information, right? Like that is the work that I love to do. And over the course of my career, I've been looking at what are the real functions that relieve the pressure on the owner, like what are the core things that I do, and built a system, a matrix of components that when put in place, the team itself is got what's the right word? I mean, there's like a creative dynamic between the team where
Mhm.
functionally they are performing as the general manager without having to have a single person in that position.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, what are the key elements of building I mean, when we talk about middle management, I mean, in a small business to say like 5 to 10 employees, I mean, middle management seems like a very odd word, but is there a difference when we talk about middle management when we're talking like a small business of maybe 10, 15 employees versus those with 50 or more employees?
Yeah, and I guess I wouldn't use middle management. It's like your midline leadership, right? I mean, you
Okay.
do have, in a 15 employee company, you have people who are your supervisors or your team
Mhm.
leads or like what. So they're
Mhm.
not managers. They
Mhm.
are leadership though in your company, right? There
Sure.
are people,
Mhm.
everybody who has 15 employees has some people who are sort of rising to the top of being leadership. So that's who we would work with.
Mhm.
Um, but to answer your question about the components, I mean, the first component is the cultural framework, which is
Mhm.
mission, values, and vision, right? You have to identify the owner's drive, like why we're here, what we're up to, in terms
Mhm.
of our values, what we agree on are the values of the company. And that cultural framework is super important because owners often feel like if you delegate, then it's going to go in a direction that's not comfortable and not doesn't match your priorities, right? So
Mhm.
what I'm up to is, and what the Matrix, the virtual GM Matrix does, is ensure that really the goal is that, some of my words, that my team will make the same decisions that I would make whether or not I'm in it, right? I mean,
Right.
that's what we want. So with that cultural framework in place, we're giving the team the, the decision makers, the decision making benchmarks
Mhm.
for making those right decisions.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I think the key element there that the listeners should be keen in on is that we're trying to find ways for people to be able to make the decisions that we make on as us as owners make on a daily basis on their own, right? And it's almost like teaching other people how to think like you, right?
Exactly. That's,
And
thank you for saying it so simple.
no worries. But I mean, that is a hard lift. I mean, it's because not as a entrepreneur, I have found in the last 20 years of owning businesses myself that people just don't think like us, right? I mean, employees, people who are intrapreneurs, even so, those that are they have entrepreneur drive, but not the propensity for risk, right? So they like to be a proxy owner within somebody else's dream, and they love that because they get the success or they get the so what I'm looking for. The security of having a job, right? And the excitement of a small business enterprise. And that's usually run in an entrepreneurial vein, right? It's a very fast, agile, and stuff like that. And so when we're talking about the agility of such small companies, like say 10 to 20 people, I mean, how is it that what are the key components of like downloading that reasoning skill from the owner to their leadership?
So it is that framework of mission, vision, and values. And I mean, I tell clients, if you have a team member who makes a decision, it's not the decision you would have made. And you're asking them, like, what was your thought process behind that? Why did you make that decision? If they say to you, I thought about our mission, and then I looked at these three values that we've said are important, and our goal, our strategic objective for this year was tied to the vision. And when I considered those four things or five things, I made this decision because I thought it reflected those things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if it's not the decision you would have made, you're going to feel good about it, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
going to feel like there's a place for us to work. Then that's a coaching moment. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Here's the one, then you have to really think about why would I have made a different decision? Well, there's one component missing, and you can coach from there. So you
Mm-hmm.
get people um, in the mindset of looking at the core cultural structure of the company and its objectives when they're making a decision. And then, over time, we're hiring to aligned
Mhm.
by our mission, agree to our values and share those values. And it becomes, just part of the cultural mix that people are making decisions based on the right criteria.
I love that. Yeah, and I think that I think that people, I don't know, either they dismiss vision and mission as part of a decision matrix, because I think that a lot of people think it's fluffy, right? And I think that I think people have sometimes written down vision statements and mission statements just so that they could say they checked the box, right? But do you see a lot of that?
Absolutely. Or they don't do it's like a thing that everybody knows they should do, right? Like I know
Oh, I
I
do.
should, but it's just
Mhm.
a traditionally and mission and values are things that you wrote down and put on the wall and claimed, and you can tell people who've done that because it looks and sounds about the same. Everybody's got integrity and whatever. I mean, they've got all this.
Right.
That sounds very familiar. I'm interested in what I work with people on, like really looking at who you are. I'm an operations person, and I had a contractor one time say to me, asked me to come in and do like the standard operating procedures. And I said, well, before we do that, I need to do a mission and values. And they said, why? I said, well, because your operating procedures are going to be different depending on who you are. If
Mm,
you're a contractor who values consistency and doing it the same every time for efficiency and highest value for the client, then
mhm.
things are going to look one way. If you value, creativity and designing customized, work for each person, your procedures are going to look somewhere different. So we don't think about that translation of mission and values into operations, but when you begin to think about it, it's a game changer.
I think it's like a North Star, it's like you got to point yourself in the right direction because there are so many ways to approach how to do business and how to react to clients. I mean, there's a time where we used to carry overdue balances, our AR. I mean, just ridiculous amounts of time before we would send them to collections, And then when the culture changed, and how I changed, even how I ran my business from a brick and mortar to a virtual company, we got rigid. It was just like, listen, if you're not going to pay your bills, you can't be here. And we started firing clients, which in an old culture, we would never fire a client. That was not part of my ethos. We worked with folks assuming that everybody was working in the vein of goodwill, right? And definitely, in a place of positive of action. And come to find out that people just are there are people out there taking advantage of other business owners, knowing full well what type of strain they're putting on both the owner, their employees, and everything connected to it, right? And so I think when you do look at your vision, your mission, and then your core values, that operating procedure probably gets even more in tune, because I think that your culture is like kind of your gear shifter, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, for your mission and your vision, right? And it's just like, yeah, this is where we're going, but this is how we're getting there, and this is how
Exactly.
we're going to climb that mountain, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And so then once you have those pieces in place, the second real body of work is about identifying right roles and accountability and authorities for people. And if you look at a lot of those small to mid-sized businesses, um, sorry, something knocking on my door. I don't know if you can hear that.
No worries.
The What you see is a very flat organizational structure where everybody's kind of doing a little bit of everything, and quite often everybody's going to the owner for something. They
Uh-huh.
might be going to the owner for something to do with, what an office manager would do, or with strategic leadership. So,
Right.
uh, doing an actual org chart, which I had a client recently say, I just didn't think I needed that. I'm just, a retail shop and everybody's just clerks. But it was funny. We did an org chart and showed people where they could grow and how they could, advance the organization. And everybody got, excited and engaged and interested. And then we also can see when we do that often the owner is wearing about 6 different hats, and really
Mm.
simplifying that, we can start start to discover what do you want to work your way out of first, move out of
Mm-hmm.
this, and how we want to adjust the team. So the structure of the organization, and then really writing role definitions that identify not just tasks for people to do, but accountabilities to make sure that they know they have the authority to achieve those results they're accountable for. Start to really change the level of engagement and job ownership or position ownership in the team. And then hiring to those pieces, again, people who are interested in being accountable for results and excited about accomplishing things rather than folks who just want to have a list of tasks to do. So that's the second big piece of the matrix.
And when we're looking at our matrix, I mean, there's some people who are looking to build a lifestyle business versus a exitable business, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see a huge shift in mindset when people decide, I want to make this bigger than me versus this is just how I pay my bills?
Well, it's there's a mindset shift in the overall vision,
Mm-hmm.
but even if this is just how you want to pay your bills, for people who are in a lifestyle business, I think when you're doing that, you want to have a life. And
Mm-hmm. Right.
lifestyle business shouldn't mean that you are going to have to be working all of the time. It means you want to have a business that supports your lifestyle. I mean, my company name is Your Business Life. I am a fan of whatever the owner is interested in doing. I'm happy to support that, whatever their vision is. But whether you want a lifestyle business or you really want to grow and have a scale to sell strategy, you want to have your operations support you rather than the other way